So you got to explain this a little bit more. I'm a tech guy, so I understand the tech aspects, but slow it down for everyone, for the layman's, on what you're doing and how you're running the candidates.
So our primary issue is Internet Bill of Rights.
Okay.
Kind of with coronavirus, everybody's seeing that like everything's becoming digital. People are seeing
that's a bad
censorship.
thing, by the way. That's a bad thing.
People are like, yeah. But we got to protect ourselves, right? Because it's one of those things. And I tell the Republicans this: we can like dig our heels in and try to stop everything, and we can hold out for a little while. But like they have the power of infinity on their side as far as technologically. So we got to like proactively try to run a little ahead of them and anticipate their next move and nail their feet to the floor with things like AI, with brain interfacing technology, with all these things that are coming to fruition here in a very scary way. We got to proactively seek that out and say, what is the rules for this? Right now, there's no rule that says the tech companies, if they have brain interfacing technology, can't just write a thought to your head or read a thought from your head. Right? So people, a few years ago looked at me a little weird when I was saying this, but if you've seen like the Neuralink stuff, if you've seen the self-driving cars that you can put a disc on your head and drive with your mind, if you've seen the computers you can operate with your mind, like this is becoming a thing very quickly. And so
okay, but those aren't based on so again, I know a lot about AI. I built a platform that runs neural networks in parallel. I was one of the first people to do that in building out data DNA of the individual. And then I deployed that data DNA on a one-to-one basis in order to get people to buy or to consume a product, a service. I got them to vote, not vote. I mean, I understand the entire concept behind that entire model. But you start talking about the thing that you put over your head. It was actually it was reading the synapses. It was reading the electronic current in that particular area of the brain, and it was limited to certain functions. Right, so it wasn't really reading the mind; it was reading the synapses of what you would likely do, based on how your body interacts. In other words, was that sending it to your arm or your leg? Because your brain is still sending that synapses to those areas. So it's actually a binary function. It's not a reading your brain.
Yeah. Function. So what I'm telling you is that's where it's at right now,
yeah.
And they are actively developing. Like by 2030, like they will have stuff that can read your mind. And so we face a crossroads here, because imagine the scenario, right? So your phone reads all your text, phone calls, emails, all your metadata, builds this super sophisticated profile on you, and then can kind of send you little things that it knows will direct you in one way or another.
Right.
So imagine that leveling up, and now it can read your memories or your emotions or whatever, and now they can feed you a thought to your head as advertising.
Okay.
So people think I'm a little out there, but I'm trying to say this is coming, and we gotta proactively say in advance before it's here, this is what the rules for that are. This is my sovereign space. They are not allowed to intrude on that without our express permission.
So I would agree with you, but it's the same thing as Watson. Remember Watson?
Yeah.
IBM's Watson. Okay, that's total bullshit. Sorry, Mr. Producer.
I grew up with the CTO of Watson, was dad in my Boy Scout troop.
Okay, it's total bullshit, complete. It worked off of if-then structure, like the constructs of how that machine learning works was if-then. They made it sound smarter by understanding what the future was supposed to look like in that conversation based upon what that person did previously, right? So it really wasn't that bright. It's just, hey, if you walk your foot in front of the other, right, then it's going to predict you're going to walk a foot in front of the other. And if you trick it, it's easy to trick that system, right? Now, the reason why I say that is because people have been talking about what these systems can do, and I've read all the case studies, and I've looked at the stuff even that you've all Noah Harari's put out there, which is pretty scary stuff, personally. I mean, if talking about the fact that you can hijack the human brain, they've been trying to do this for hundreds of years, by the way. Remember, they were doing lobotomies and all sorts of other things in order to cut out your impulses or desires. It was like mad scientists. So I'm not saying that they won't be able to get to a place where they can influence you in a certain way. I'm not skeptical that they can get there. I just think by the time they try to get there, God's going to intervene. That's just my whole thing. He's going to be stepping in.
Well, we are God. I think we are God's intervention.
Yeah. Well,
I think us, our movement, us all together, we're God's intervention. And I'm not so worried in the traditional computing sense I'm more worried in the quantum computing and quantum internet sense. So I'm not sure, you seem like a pretty technical guy. I'm not sure how much the audience knows about quantum computing, but a quantum computer is essentially like a completely different kind of computer. It effectively is like a time warping computer. And it's made with graphene and lasers instead of electricity and silicone. And the idea is if you hit the graphene with these lasers a certain way, it becomes massless and it kind of escapes the time continuum that we're on right now. So it can look at like millions of options at once, right? So in the commercial market, they're in the infancy stages of this thing. And a few years back, when I first made my video, I was talking about a 72 qubit quantum computer. So zeros and ones are how traditional computers work. Qubits, which could be a 0 or 1 or anywhere in between, is how a quantum computer works.
Correct.
And so the power of the amount of like states it can be in or like examine at one time is 2 to the q, like the exponent power. So if there's 2 qubits, right, it's 4. If there's 3, it's 8, and so on and so forth. And their 72 qubit computer that they had 3 or 4 years ago, if you do 2 to the 72nd power, that is 16 sextillion. So it can look at 16 sextillion options at one time. So for everybody out there, that's million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion, 16 of those. So this unimaginably huge number. And with this quantum entanglement stuff, there's theoretical papers, and they're trying to reach the state of with the quantum internet where they can directly interface with synapses in your brain wirelessly, right? And not even through RF, through quantum entanglement itself. So that's the stuff that is coming down the pipeline at us. And that's the kind of technology where if we let it get here unconstrained, then it's already over, right? There is no more freedom. Then, they can essentially just press a button and erase our faith from all of our minds. They can erase our political persuasions from all our minds. They can do a lot of scary stuff. So I know I talk about it in very dystopian terms, but with the movement, we're really just trying to say, hey, look, this thing is coming. It's going to be a thing. We got to protect against it. We got to establish with the Internet Bill of Rights the sovereignty of our mind. We got to establish the freedom of speech into the realm of the Internet. Because one of the things my case exposed was that the FBI in the realm of the Internet is able to go under this weird jurisdiction where it's like this corporate jurisdiction. So they were able to say, in my case, that since my phone calls and emails violated the website terms of service of that company, that the phone calls and emails were not legitimate support phone calls and emails, that was the grounds for the wire fraud and the extortion charge.